Hi, I'm so excited to speak to you today about the incredible event that was the Swansea Half Marathon that we ran on Sunday, where there were over 70 people with type 1 diabetes involved in the world record attempt. So it was the idea of my friend Paul, who kind of had this wild idea, well, not so wild, 2 years ago, that he hoped that he could bring people with type 1 diabetes together to run in a half marathon. And on Sunday, that's exactly what we achieved, and it was amazing. So, as many of you know, my first sport is actually sprinting, the 100 and 200 metre sprints, and long distance running does not come easily or naturally to me. It's something that I really needed to train for, and that's exactly what I have been doing in the last few months. So I've been in the gym, I've been long distance running on different terrains for different lengths of time, and I've also been in park run on a Saturday as well, just trying to build up my endurance to make sure that I kind of knew what to expect a little bit, as much as you can, with having never run a half marathon before. And I also use the training as an opportunity to practice what my diabetes was going to be doing. So I did things like I practiced how to take a blood glucose test whilst I was running, and I calculated how many carbs and what kinds of carbs that I would need whilst I was going to be out doing the half as well, and how I would carry those, because of course that's a concern too. I also kind of looked at what kind of basal rates I might need for my insulin. So there was quite a lot to take into consideration really ahead of the Swansea half, but the time I put in for the preparation really was worth it, because I think it kind of gave me that mental headspace to really focus on the race rather than worrying about my diabetes. I knew that I planned it. I thought I knew what to expect to a degree. Obviously the hot weather kind of threw a bit of a spanner in the works, but having said that, because I attended and I raced in the London 10K, that was a day that was quite similar. It was really warm, so I could really kind of use that training run to kind of fuel my ideas and my performance for the Swansea half. But I just don't know what could have prepared me for just how exciting and how amazing it was to stand on the start line. I was in my pen with 7-8 other people with type 1 diabetes in our matching shirts, our Anna PS t-shirts, carrying our diabetes equipment, and we all kind of did our blood tests, or however we wanted to scan or check our CGM before we started, and we just kind of encouraged each other at the start as well. We just said this is about having type 1 diabetes and showing that it's not a barrier to sport, having the condition, and that we were going to support each other along the way. And that was exactly my experience, because I was really lucky that quite early on in the race I kind of found myself in sync with 2 other type 1 runners, and they were really experienced long distance runners, and they really helped pace me to about 14 kilometers, which was just amazing. And the other thing that I had planned as well was that I was going to do, even though I was wearing CGM from my Medtronic pump and I was wearing my flash glucose monitor for the XTOD study, I still wanted to do physical blood tests just to find out what was going on and have that kind of confidence as well. So every 5 kilometers I made sure that I did a physical test to see what was going on, and then throughout the duration of the race I made sure that I took on carbohydrates as well. So I wore a bladder pack with my carbohydrates in the solution behind me. I also carried a belt as well that had a glucose shot in it and jelly babies just in case. Because you try and calculate how much carbohydrate you're going to need, but of course with the sunshine as well and the physical exertion, you want to be prepared just in case you need a little bit more than you think you're going to need. And generally my blood glucose levels, they did behave. I started off the race at around 11, which I was happy with. I had my temporary basal on before I started running, and then I found a few kilometers in, probably about 8 kilometers in, that my blood glucose levels started to drop to 7. a few kilometers later they started to drop to 5, and that's when I knew I really needed to take on some really fast acting carbs to make sure that I could finish the race safely. And I was really lucky that this coincided with needing to go to the loo, so I managed to stop, do my physical blood test, treat what I needed to treat, and by the time I'd gone, my blood glucose levels had gone up to 8.9 and I was safe to run again. I did another blood glucose test before I got to the finish line, just to make sure that I knew my competitive spirit, I knew that I needed to have that extra fuel and that confidence that my blood glucose levels were where they needed to be towards the finish line. And I would say that the last 5k were probably some of the hardest kilometers of the race, more mentally because it was kind of so tiring and so draining, because for those of you that know Swansea, the route went out to the Mumbles from the city centre and back along the coastal path, and there was no shade along the coastal path. It was kind of, the sun was beating down on you. So as I say, that kind of brought its own challenges. But in the time that I hoped and I aimed to get, I managed to cross the finish line and I was still smiling. And then I suddenly became really quite emotional and quite overwhelmed, because I realised the magnitude of what we had achieved as a group, that we had kind of come together, brought together by this condition that we all have, and we'd all managed to finish safely as well, which was just absolutely fantastic, amazing to be part of, and I was really grateful to be involved. So here we are, here is the medal as proof that I actually finished the race. And yeah, I'm still smiling from ear to ear at what was achieved that weekend. And I just hope that for everybody watching, that reassures you that you know me, you know that I'm a sprinter, I'm not a long distance runner, but if you put your mind to it, if you prepare and you do it safely, then I think that sporting dreams are achievable. And I hope that you feel the same way too. So until the next challenge, which will be the 1,000,000 steps for Diabetes UK, I'll see you again soon.